It is Thursday, March 12th, 2026, and we're back from the press box on the Right Team podcast. From an East Texas perspective, we break down the local and national sports headlines of the day, all from our vantage point right here in the Piney Woods. From Longview to Marshall to Lufkin to Athens to Mount Pleasant to Texarkana and all points in between, we've got the stories, the scores, and the conversations that matter most to sports fans across our corner of the Lone Star State. I'm David Weaver, former sports editor and sports information director, now a communications consultant with school districts across East Texas and the host of the Right Team podcast. Joining me once again today is my good friend and podcast partner, pastor of Friendship Baptist Church in Marshall and sports director at KMHT 103.9 FM, the heartbeat of East Texas, Brother Matt Paul. Matt, to my knowledge, this is the first podcast that we have recorded with one of us actually outside the state of Texas. How are things up in Little Rock, Arkansas this morning?
Going good, a little cold. It's pretty chilly this morning.
It is chilly down here. I got up and it was 43 degrees at 5 o'clock this morning. And so I had to go back and pull out my hoodies and warm the school bus back up again. I thought could turn that heater off for the rest of the year. But yeah, it came through. Cold front came through and cooled things down a bit. Matt will be with us again as long as he can this morning. He is juggling vacation time, and so we certainly appreciate him taking a few minutes to step on here to discuss some of the events and headlines of the last 24 hours. You did miss a heck of a sports content day yesterday.
Man, it looks like it. I saw I wasn't able to sit and watch the whole thing, but I saw a lot of clips, a lot of blurbs, man.
We had a lot of stuff going on that my good friend and the East Texas journalism legend, Jack Stallard, talked about yesterday on the show, and do want to thank Jack again for stepping in and helping us out. He had some solid info as he always does, but let's go ahead and get to our show today. We've got a lot to discuss on this Thursday. Let's start with today's on-campus segment, which is, of course, sponsored by East Texas Baptist University. Located in Marshall, Texas, ETBU offers a university experience built on academic excellence, nationally known athletics, and a strong foundation of faith and community. It's a place where students are challenged every day to grow, lead, and serve. Learn more about life on the Hill in Marshall at etbu.edu. So I know you've got an update of Monday's back row bracketology for us, Matt. Let me start out by saying I'm not at all happy at all this morning with college basketball in general.
Oh, I'm sure.
My Longhorns straight up choked against, of all people, Chris Beard's sorry Ole Miss.
Golly, that was wild.
I'm telling you. And you texted me last night in the middle of it, which was not a good idea. Thanks a lot, pal, for doing that. And I'm just going to tell you straight up, just be careful when you do that, because I have learned to put myself on a 7-second delay before I respond to texts like that when I'm not in the best of moods. But I tell you, last night's sorry showing by my Horns, I mean, it's pretty much taken away all of my excitement for March Madness, at least for the last 24 hours or so. So,
yeah.
But I know you are on top of it and will be there for us all here. So, just kind of tell us what changes have been done, or any that you've seen over the last 3 days to your bracket as we get ready for Selection Sunday.
Well, let me try to put your mind at ease a little bit. The good news is that apparently no one wants in this tournament. So as of right now, the Longhorns barely shifted back in my bracket. Now they are on the cusp of being in that first four, those first four teams to play on Tuesday and Wednesday. The margin's razor thin on that, but the good news for them, David, over the last 2 days, Indiana, bad loss. Stanford, bad loss. California with a rough loss. Virginia Tech with a rough loss. West Virginia, not a bad loss to BYU, but they really needed a win to get back in the mix of things. Cincinnati, and certainly not a bad loss yesterday to UCF, but when you have an 8-point lead with 2 minutes to go, with the way this bubble has been, you were looking at a chance for Cincinnati to really kind of make a move. Couldn't hold on to an 8-point lead with 2 minutes, lost that game in overtime. Auburn beat Mississippi State and Oklahoma beat South Carolina. Those are two wins that normally would not move the needle. But when you have that many losses, suddenly those wins are much more impactful. Today, Indiana, who had an egregious loss to Northwestern in the first round of the tournament, today Indiana falls out. Auburn at 17-15 has moved back into the bracket. And in a weird twist, Auburn plays Tennessee today. If Auburn wins that game, I think it's a done deal. I think they're in, barring a lot of weird things. You know, we talk about these bid thieves, and today's where you want to start watching. Miami of Ohio, I think, is securely in. I've taken them off the bubble because of all that carnage yesterday. But if Miami of Ohio loses today or tomorrow in the MAC tournament, suddenly there's a new team that's in that we've got to bump somebody out. A couple other conferences, the Atlantic 10 and the Mountain West, got to bump somebody out. So, you know, we'll see what develops there. Not much movement. I'll tell you right now, on the top 10 seeds, I didn't have any movement because almost none of them played. And the ones that did play didn't really have wins that were good enough to kind of shift them off of where they were. So my new last four in are Missouri, Virginia Commonwealth, SMU, and Auburn. SMU's done, so they can't improve themselves at all. You know, Missouri plays Kentucky today. If Missouri wins that, got to move them ahead of Texas. That's going to throw Texas back into that last four there. You've also got Virginia Commonwealth starting their conference tournament here this weekend. So the better teams are starting to play now. You know, we're starting to get some of that. The Big 12 today, the top four play. The ACC today, the top four play. So we'll start learning a little more. But really the big news, I think, was, I don't know if you saw any of it, but that McNeese State Southland Championship where they beat SFA. McNeese State dominated that game from the get-go. Also, late last night, had a late change I had to do this morning because Idaho won. They beat Montana out in the Big Sky. You know, other than that, you did have some curious things like Liberty, the number one seed in Conference USA, bowing out. But I don't know. It's going to be really fun to see, to watch how these next couple days develop. I expect the bracket to get a lot more fluid, but I will say one thing I do want to say: conference championship weekend. People who are wondering whether you're keeping up with ours or whether you're keeping up with one of the national bracketologies like Joe Lunardi or what have you. Shifting is typically very minimal from this point forward. Shifting is typically very minimal. Now I look, we just talked about Missouri, for example, in the SEC. They play Kentucky today, and then they would play Florida. Now, if they beat Kentucky and Florida and then go on to beat, say, Vanderbilt and Arkansas or Alabama and win 4 games in 4 days, yeah, they might move up a full seed line or maybe even another seed line. But you're not going to get a conference tournament win and suddenly be like, okay, now I'm moving up from a 7 to a 5. It's not going to shift you that much. It's not going to drop you that much. So we're entering that phase where we need to be aware that that's kind of how it's going to go from this point forward. But as razor thin as it is, looking at teams like, especially in the Mountain West, New Mexico and San Diego State, looking at teams like Seton Hall and Oklahoma that are outside still, they're looking in, but they're still alive. It's going to be really curious to see if those teams step up and try to make a move in their conference tournaments to assert themselves.
Well, good stuff there, partner. Of course, we'll all know for sure how this works out coming up this Sunday at 5 o'clock when ESPN drops the actual brackets on Selection Sunday. And then we will compare on Monday's show just exactly how well you did in trying to give us an idea of what the brackets are going to look like. It'll be fun this time next week as we've gone through filled out our brackets, and we'll share some of that as well, obviously. But I'm kind of anxious to see how your all your hard work on this just to kind of see how close you get to the actual bracket on Sunday.
Yeah, curious to see as well.
I did want to mention here again on campus of Jack and I actually talked a little bit about the Southwest Junior College Athletic Association. In reality, I think it's the NJCAA I'm talking about here.
Yeah, it is.
14 tournament. I think I was thinking of football for some reason, but anyway, we did mention on yesterday's show about their tournament, which is going on. Their men played on Tuesday night. And they are resuming play in the second round today. And some of our local junior colleges, 3 to be exact, are still alive in that tournament. Of course, Panola is the 5th seed. They will be playing at 3 o'clock today against Blinn, which is the 4th seed. Number 2 seed Kilgore College is hosting is the home team against the actual tournament host, Lee College, who came in as the number 7 seed. And then Tyler Junior College is hosting Angelina College at 8 o'clock tonight. That's a 3 seed versus a 6 seed. So that's the men's side of the bracket going on down there right now amongst our area junior colleges. When I mentioned those 3, I mean, technically, I could make the claim that we've got several. The number 1 Trinity Valley, of course, and then Angelina down there in Lufkin. A lot of really good junior colleges here. Oh my gosh, within 75 to 100 miles for sure. Around where you and I normally are here in East Texas. So all of that going on here. The women's side of the bracket, again, they're also being played down at Lee College in Baytown. A lot of basketball being played if you're in Baytown right now.
Yes, sir.
Junior college basketball. They played their semifinal rounds, or actually their quarterfinal rounds on yesterday with the number 1 seed Trinity Valley easing to a win over number 8 Coastal Bend 93-44. Not much problem there for the Lady Cards. Panola actually has a mild upset, Matt, over Blinn. That was a 5 versus a 4. The Phillies come away with a 62-59 victory, so they'll be advancing to the semifinals against Trinity Valley tomorrow. Kilgore edged Angelina 57-55. That's an exciting game there. And the number 2 Rangers go to the semifinals where they would take on the Tyler Lady Apaches, who slipped past Paris 70-62. The weird thing about this, and Jack and I mentioned it yesterday, is that on both sides of the bracket, on both the men and the women, you've got the same exact top 4 seeds.
Yeah.
Trinity Valley, Kilgore, Tyler, and Blinn in that order. And it's the same thing on the men's side in terms of seeding. I don't know that I've ever seen that in men's and women's basketball at the same school, having the exact same seedings going into your conference tournament. That's wild.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. But I'll tell you what, if obviously I'm not in Texas or local right now, but if that tournament was any closer, that would be a fun tournament to go watch, whether you're looking at the men or the women. That would be good stuff.
Well, I did mention, I think a couple of weeks ago, and I did get a chance to go watch TJC, their men play here a couple of weeks ago. And they got some good basketball players at the JUCO ranks. And it's one of those things that I learned at ETBU, what makes a Division III program here so attractive in our area is that you don't have a whole lot of Division II or Division I schools within, say, 100 to 200 miles or so. You get to Austin, you get to College Station, that's about it, right? And
yep.
Waco is probably a little bit closer, but man, you do have junior colleges just about on every street corner, and they take what the big boys can't take, and eventually they go there. Of course, just as an example, Jimmy Butler. Everybody knows who Jimmy Butler is. His name is actually in Wagstaff Gym. He played there at TJC. So a lot of good basketball players come from the JUCO ranks, and it's going on right now down there in Baytown. So we'll follow that here as the week moves on as well. Now on to the Beast Texas portion of our podcast, which is sponsored as always by Styles Electric, proudly serving East Texas from offices in Longview and Mount Pleasant. Styles has delivered reliable professional electrical installation and repair services for more than 25 years. From school districts and universities to civic organizations and commercial projects across our region, Styles powers the projects that help East Texas grow and thrive. When quality workmanship and trusted experience matter to Styles Electric, service that speaks for itself. Well, of course, today is the big day for a couple of the teams Matt and I have been following through the playoff brackets the last month or so, with St. Augustine and Martins Mill set to take their shot at the UIL state tournament down at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio this evening. I went back and did a little bit of research on these teams, Matt, just to kind of get a feel for what's going on down there tonight. Did not know that St. Augustine actually has already won a basketball state championship fairly recently in 2019. So the Wolves are looking to get a second title here in over the last 7 years.
Man, that's impressive.
They'll be taking on a Panhandle team that has 3 state championships. They won in 1996, 2002, and most recently in 2023.
Wow.
They're pretty much known as a powerhouse up there in the Texas Panhandle region. And so pretty good 2A basketball game that's going to take place down there at 5 o'clock tonight in San Antonio.
Looks like it. Yeah, that's pretty cool, man.
The other one,
state championships between the 2 teams, that's impressive.
Yeah, well, we get to this next one here, which is really going to be, the way it works out, it is the primetime game of the night at 7 o'clock tonight. They're at the Alamo Dome. You got Martins Mill taking on Lipan. This is a rematch of last year's state championship game, in which Martins Mill actually won. And so, of course, they are as we know, the defending state champs. They're in Class 2A. But I'm going to tell you, Lipan is no stranger to these things. They've won 3 UIL state titles. They got 1 in 2018, and then prior to last year, they were back-to-back champs in 23 and 2024. So this matchup tonight is the 3rd straight in the state championship game between Martins Mill and Lipan. They are no strangers to each other. And, of course, Martins Mill comes into that one with 34-4 on the season. Lipan's 38-1. And so kind of feel like these 2 teams were destined to meet once again. And they're going to do it tonight and kind of settle the score at 7 o'clock there at the Alamo Dome. You can actually follow those games and watch them either via live stats, or there will be a video feed. If you go to the UIL website and pull up the boys state tournament page, there will be links to that where you can watch these games. So, but anyway, good luck to those 2 teams from our region, Martins Mill and San Augustine, as they go try to bring home a ring.
For sure. You kind of would have felt cheated, I think, if it wasn't Martins Mill and Lipan. Like, you feel like you missed out if you didn't get that matchup.
Lipan is playing in their, at least I didn't go back all the way back, but they're playing in their 4th straight state championship game. Imagine that with everything we've talked about, how tough it is to even get out of our bi-district region up here in our neck of the woods, what it takes to do that, to make it straight, at least 4 straight state title games. So, a lot of really good basketball going on down there this weekend. Of course, that'll wrap up the high school basketball season when the 6A teams finish off on Saturday evening. Basketball season will be over in Texas. Swinging back here to what we'd like to do on Thursday here, just like to get everyone updated with the local soccer standings very quickly here. Of course, we are, again, the disclaimer with this is we're pulling this off of Max Prep, so these may not be as updated as we would like, but it's the best source that I can find to kind of give us an idea. Starting out in our 6A ranks, Longview is still 3rd in the district there with a 7-4-1 mark. The Lobos are 12-6-2 overall. They're followed right behind Tyler Legacy at 6-4-2, so that's about a half game difference or so in the standings between those 2 local teams. But if the season were to end today, Longview and Tyler Legacy would be in the postseason. 10-5A soccer standings on the boys' side. Let's get a quick look at them. Mount Pleasant continues to lead the district at 11-2-1. They're just ahead by 1 game over Jacksonville, which is 12-3-1. Lufkin comes in the 3rd spot, followed by Nacogdoches, which has a 2-game lead over both Tyler and Marshall on the boys' side. So that's pretty much those 6 teams are vying for those 4 spots, with Marshall and Tyler right now on the outside looking in.
Yeah, and I think they're down to the final game this weekend. So it may be a done deal for those teams that are outside. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good for us. We'll actually be in the playoffs. It'll be easier to kind of keep up with these teams as they get in to the postseason. Athens in District 14 4A is leading that by 1 game, actually 1.5 games in these standings over Van. The Hornets are trying to hold on to that spot. Lindale is holding down the third spot right now, and then Cumberland Academy is just a half game ahead of Chapel Hill for that fourth and final playoff spot in 14-4A. And then we'll pull up the last district on the boys' side, 15-4A. Kilgore and Center are cruising into the playoffs. Kilgore right now, Matt, has a 21-1 record on the season overall. They're 11-1 in district play. Right behind them, there is Center at 10-1, 13-3-2 on the season. Coming in third in the district is Pine Tree at 7-3-2, and then you got a log jam coming up in 4, 5, and 6. Sabine, Henderson, and Carthage all trying to get into the playoffs. Right now, Sabine holds that final playoff spot with a under 500 district mark at 5 and 7. Tatum actually playing up, of course, in district in the 4A ranks in soccer. The Eagles are coming into this one. They are 0-12 in district. So a rough season there for Tatum and on the pitch, as they call it in soccer.
Yeah, man, a couple good teams in that district. Gosh.
Yeah, let's take a quick look here at the girls' side of the ledger. This is pretty much very similar in terms of our local teams. There for the girls, Longview is in third place. Lady Lobos at 8-4 in district play, and then Tyler Legacy is trying to hold off Rockwall. They've got about a half game or so separating them as we kind of wind down the season, getting pretty close to it. But the Raiders right now hold down that fourth spot by the slimmest of margins, trying to get into the postseason. Slipping down quickly to 10-5A. Again, we are going over the local soccer standings here on Thursday's edition of the Right Team Podcast. Jacksonville comes into this one, and you talk about cruising, Matt. They're 16-0, perfect 16-0 with only one loss, 20 games on the entire season. So Jacksonville is going to be the district champion. There's no doubt about that. White House is second, and tied with Hallsville at 11-3-1 records. And then Mount Pleasant is going to be the final playoff team there. They have about a 5.5 game lead over fifth place Lufkin, but Mount Pleasant's going to get that fourth place spot in the district. Really, I say they're going to get the fourth place spot. Looking at this, again, not having any schedule, and I'm assuming they're pretty close to being finished, if not already, but they're only a game out of the second spot.
Yeah.
Pretty good log jam right there between White House, Hallsville, and Mount Pleasant. Let's round this up here. 14-4A quickly on the girls' side in soccer. You got Bullard and Athens tied at 12-1 atop the standings right now, with Lindale at 9-4, followed by Brownsboro at 8-5. That's going to be your top four teams in District 14-4A, and then close out our soccer section today. Looking at 15-4A, Kilgore, man, they play some good soccer over there. Man, talked about their boys, where their ladies are 14-0, leading the district 3 games over Henderson. Then you got Spring Hill and Pine Tree rounding out the top 4 teams in that district as well. Again, we'll be anxiously waiting to see what the playoffs hold there for our soccer teams around our area. But that's your soccer roundup here on Beast, Texas.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's move on to our Moneyball segment here. And my headline here on our notes, Matt, I put Cowboys trade Osa, Solomon Thomas, and I wanted to write everything down here. So bear with me as I probably read through most of this, but I wanted to say and get my thoughts down.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to be reading what I wrote, which is always works best for me. But I started out yesterday wanting to focus on this trade, these 2 trades that the Cowboys made. And, you know, the more I've thought about it over the last 12 hours and slept on it, from a football standpoint, these are probably not bad trades. The Cowboys needed cap space. They got cap space by trading Osa, who was obviously the odd man out under the new defensive coordinator. They got a 3rd-round pick, which they didn't have, so now they actually have at least something to build on day 2 of the NFL draft. Solomon Thomas, you know, he was a good guy in the clubhouse, and he moved on, but you know, that's really not a big loss. But here's what I'm going to say, and this has kind of been the frustration of mine this week, and I just wanted to put it in writing, and so bear with me here as I go through this. But this is what I wrote. I don't know what else to say about this front office that I haven't already said.
Yeah.
It's kind of redundant at this point. I do not know why they absolutely refuse to do business the way 100% of the other teams in the NFC have done, at least in the last 30 years. I don't understand why they have to think they're standing on an island out there. The arrogance, the lack of urgency, the complete disdain these moves show to one of the most loyal, long-suffering fan bases, right, in all of sports is beyond my grasp. You know, I'm at a loss, and I'm typically not at a loss for words. You should know that by now.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones once fired the best coach he's ever hired because Jimmy Johnson got too much credit for building a roster that won 3 Super Bowls in a 4-year span. I do remember that. Okay. And there is a generation now that doesn't. The underlying reason for that was the tension that had built up over who should get credit for building that roster. After the last 30 years, 3 decades in which the Cowboys haven't even sniffed a conference championship game, much less the Super Bowl, are there any doubts at all that Jimmy was the reason why those 3 Lombardi trophies now sit in Jerry's trophy case there at the Star? He's had words like all in, bust the budget, and win now. But those are just all buzzwords uttered every February in an effort to rally the long-suffering fan base I mentioned earlier of a once proud franchise. It is a successful franchise if you consider being the most valuable in the world successful. But where it really matters to us fans, that's the championships. Well, they are the worst in the NFC over the last 30 years. There's no doubting that. The numbers say that.
Yeah.
For some reason, they believe they are doing something right. They say let everyone else scramble for the best free agents. We like our guys. Let everyone else be active and be relevant in the offseason. We like our guys. For 30 years, Jerry Jones has surrounded himself with people who think they are Jimmy Johnson, but in reality, sadly, they are chasing the ghost of those 3 Super Bowls. They are no closer to winning another title than the day before Jimmy walked in the door with Jerry. And the only one left of that duo is the owner who has watched it all disintegrate under his watch while he has indeed also watched his bank account explode. Good for Jerry, right? Good for Jerry. He's worth about $13 billion now, but I'm tired. I'm tired of hope springing eternal only to end up crashing to hell in the fall. Jerry has lost his nerve in his old age, and it's making me lose my mind, Matt. The man who likes to refer to himself as the gambler has walked away from the table and pocketed everything. And every spring, it appears as though he's done playing. And just like the spring, the fall follows suit, the same way it has for 30 long years and counting. And that's the latest update from America's team here from the Press Box on the Right Team podcast. Did I get everything in that you think I probably should say?
I think you did. Would love for that to be kind of broadcasted worldwide over the Cowboy Nation. The only thing that I would add is you said the gamblers walked away from the table with all the money. The problem was he thought he was beating the rest of the league, but in fact, the people he beat at the table were the Cowboy fans.
Exactly. Yeah, we're the losers, right?
Yep.
And look, I do realize these things, particularly this time of year, can change quickly. And I'll be the first one to get on here and apologize for if anybody thought that was too strong. That was more of a compilation of 30 years of plus of frustration. And you said it at the very beginning of our podcast. You were not on board. I was still drinking the Kool-Aid last season a bit. But, you know, I don't understand. Their way is not working. You know, it's the old adage of, you know, what's the definition of insanity, guys?
Yep.
You know, you just keep trying to do the same things and expecting different results.
Yep.
It doesn't work. They don't have the people in place to make it work. So I would be trying to copy the way someone else is doing stuff. Everybody says, oh, all this stuff that happened yesterday and moving guys around, you know, that's part of, you know, installing this new. I don't buy that. I don't buy that, guys, because we did this exact same thing about 20 years ago when Bill Parcells came on and shifted to a 3-4. We brought in all this personnel, and how many Super Bowls and NFC Championship games have we been to since then?
Yep.
You know, the faces change, but the one who's sitting in the owner's box doesn't. And until that happens, again, it's going to be miserable in the fall. I just can't see anything happen. So, all right, let's move on to the World Baseball Classic. Matt, Team USA dodged a bullet.
They did. They did.
I don't know how much of that you got to watch on Tuesday. I had to turn it off. It was disgusting to watch. But yeah, they did slip into the quarterfinals, thankfully, to the Italians who just destroyed Mexico, and allowed Team USA to slip through the back door.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch any. I was watching a lot of basketball and saw the score and didn't want to flip over. And then I saw my Chicago Cub boy, Pete Crow Armstrong, try to single-handedly bring us back. And then I thought, well, I don't want to flip over because I'll jinx it, and that whole thing. And so I just think it's bizarre. I really don't think our coach knew. I think he thought we were in. I really do. He coached like, and the roster, the lineup he put out there was like he thought we were already in, and that's bizarre to me.
I go back to my days, in travel baseball, and it was uncanny to me. My brother-in-law, who Monty Meisner, Styles Electric, by the way, he could tell you before the final pool game on Saturday where we were going to be seated on Sunday. I mean, travel ball coaches know that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And who they need to beat, where they're going to be where they want to be on the bracket on Sunday. It's mind-boggling to me that the coach of Team USA in the World Baseball Classic doesn't know if his team is in or not. And on top of all of that, he doesn't know. And then he throws out the lineup he did because he didn't know, and no one was there to tell him. On Tuesday, that may have been the most embarrassing 24 hours ever in American baseball the other night. And for some
reason,
better
win the thing now. You better win the thing.
Yeah. For some reason, the baseball gods, little G, have shined down on them and given them another chance. And ironically, how's about this in the quarterfinals? Who are they playing? Canada, who just 2 weeks ago, squared off in their sport against us. And they're not bad. They're not a bad baseball team. And so, is this going to be Canada's revenge, taking our sport away from us? I do hope our guys are ready to play, man. And that's the thing. I just don't think they're in the right frame of mind for some reason. They certainly weren't after the game against Mexico. They went hard,
not at all.
And it showed. But as you said, maybe that just means that fate is on our side and we're going to win it all now.
We'll see.
They've made it a lot harder than it needed to be, for sure.
They have.
That game takes place at 7:00 tomorrow there at Dakin Park in Houston, USA and Canada, an Olympic rematch, so to speak.
That's right.
And I wanted to get your thoughts on this because I didn't get to talk to you yesterday. What were your thoughts on Bam Adebayo's night Tuesday?
I mean, I was at a baseball game covering it, but the Marshall baseball game, and so I got the notification that he had reached 60 points, and I went and looked, and I was like, wow, this is still fairly early in the game. Look, it was obvious that he reached a point, and it was evident that he could get there, so Miami tried to get him there. I don't think Miami's going to hide that point. The other team was triple teaming him, and he was still somehow like evading them and like getting fouls. And I talked to my son, who had a friend who watched most of the game, and he was like, well, the thing is, they were triple teaming him and he was just driving at them, but they were all fouls. Like they were legitimate fouls. And so, I mean, like, look, there's people, purists, that love Kobe that are going to be like, this tarnishes Kobe's. Kobe was jacking the ball up in that game when he scored 81. Let's not pretend that it all happened in the flow of the game. Okay.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think legitimately Bam reached 60. Legitimately. Look, if you have a 60-point game in the NBA, legitimately, like, it's not everybody, just like not an all-star game. I don't care if it's 60 or if it's 83, it's all really impressive. So, yeah, I get there's some questions about it, but I thought it was pretty impressive, especially for a guy who's known as a defense-first guy.
Yeah, I go back to college days of sitting at the table and working, and hearing some things on the court. You've never lived until you've been at that vantage point, hearing the back and forth between players and coaches and referees up close. You hear from the crowd, the foul count. They like to yell out the foul count to a ref. And I saw a ref one time, I'll never forget this. He turned around to the crowd, which he shouldn't have done, and he said, "Quit fouling." And that was the ultimate response, right? I mean, if you don't want to be sent to the free throw line, quit fouling, right? And that's kind of what you said. If they were legit fouls, what are they going to do? Not call them? I mean,
right.
The guy shot 43 free throws. Stop fouling, right?
Exactly.
So, anyway, just wanted to get your take on that with your basketball knowledge. Today's back page portion of the program is brought to you by Right Team Services. From professional writing and editing to website content, social media, and grant writing, Right Team Services works with schools, businesses, and nonprofits to communicate their message clearly and effectively. If you need words that work for you, trust Right Team Services to help you find your voice. Learn more today at rightteamservices.net about how we can help you tell your story. Matt, lead us off here on the back page.
Yeah, and I only got one thing, and I'll go ahead and give you a heads up. I'm going to dip as soon as this is done. I got to get out of here. But this got resolved, but I think I texted you about it a couple days ago. What Matt Stepp of Dave Campbell, Texas Football, referred to as a hostage situation in the WAC. Kind of a wild scenario that happened a few days ago. Utah Valley is leaving the WAC for the Big West, I believe. And they had an exit fee of $1 million that had to at least be in escrow, or that it had to be in process by a certain date. Well, it still wasn't in process, and the WAC comes out with a statement, and this really seems like a lot of hurt feelings, but you have a lot of hurt feelings nowadays with all this stuff going on, and says if Utah Valley does not comply with the judge's order that this process has to be begun by this such and such date, they will be considered a member not in good standing for the conference, and they will not be allowed in the conference tournament. They were preparing alternate brackets. By the way, in the men's side, Utah Valley was the number 1 seed. And in the women's side, they were the number 4 seed. So you certainly have an opportunity to still make the tournament. I know there's hurt feelings when you jump a conference. And of course, we get into NIL all the time here. There's hurt feelings there. But this was wild that for just about a 48-hour period, look, not many people watched the WAC probably. So that's why I put it on the back page. But you actually had a hostage situation where the conference was telling the school, you better pay or we're not going to let you compete for a chance to go to the NCAA tournament. I just thought that was crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising that we haven't seen that before, or may not see it. We'll probably see some more in the future with that kind of stuff as this, unfolds.
Yeah, and it's been resolved now. The judge has assured the WAC that the process has begun, and so Utah Valley will be allowed to compete and try to go get in the tournament. I mean, I got them as like a 12 or a 13 seed. They're one of those dangerous teams if they get in. So on the men's side, we'll see what happens. But just thought that was really weird, really crazy. But
all right, brother, thanks for coming on here. I know you got to scoot. I'll finish it out, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Take care, bud.
All right. That's Matt. He's going to continue his vacation there. Again, we do appreciate him jumping on with us and taking a few minutes to, for real, just update us, particularly on the NCAA basketball and his bracketology. We appreciate that. I do want to finish out the back page portion of the program here today with some things I saw from yesterday. Actually, I saw this one a couple of days ago come across my Twitter feed, but it was the best 10 college football programs predicted out 10 years from now. This is a tweet from an account called CF Budge. This is his predictions for the 10 best college football programs 10 years from now. Okay, so trying to predict the future of some of these programs. I'm going to start at number 10 and go up. Number 10, they have Florida being a top 10 program 10 years from now. Number 9, Texas Tech. Number 8, USC. Number 7, Indiana, the defending national champs, will continue being a force. Number 6 is Oregon. Number 5 is Georgia. Coming in at number 4 is Miami. Number 3, LSU, of course, with Lane Kiffin taking the reins there. And then Predicting this out in 10 years, the number 2 program over that period will be Ohio State. And then this was music to my ears to see the number 1 program in college football. 10 years from now will be the Texas Longhorns. I agree with that 100%. And the thing I wanted to most notably point out here is there is no Alabama, no Notre Dame, no Oklahoma, no Texas A&M, or no Oregon on this list. I take that back. There is Oregon. I see them now at number 6. But the rest of those schools, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Fighting Irish, and Alabama are not on this list. So I thought that was kind of interesting here, just to kind of predict out 10 years from now what college football might look like. The other thing I saw, and I mentioned this a couple of days ago on the show, DeSoto folks is not playing around. DeSoto High School, and again, local tie there with former Marshall coach Claude Mathis, who has won 3 state championships since he returned to DeSoto. We mentioned the other day that they've added St. Thomas Aquinas on the schedule for this coming fall, and also Allen. And they will also continue to play their rival Duncanville, but that has been announced over the last couple of days that game will actually be played in the Cotton Bowl there in Dallas. And so quite the non-district schedule for DeSoto, which has dropped down to 5A. They are the defending, of course, state 6A Division II champions. And they, of course, in the latest UIL realignment, dropped down to 5A, where they'll be playing in the D1 ranks. But they're keeping those 6A schools on their schedule and going to make some national headlines as well. So DeSoto and Coach Claude Mathis are not playing around when they are making up their schedule for this upcoming fall. Going to be exciting over there in DeSoto. This date in sports history, as we close out our show here today, happening on this date in 1903, the New York Highlanders were established. This franchise would eventually become, of course, the legendary New York Yankees. Just a few years later, after their establishment on March 12, 1903, the team did move to the Bronx and adopted the name that would become one of the most iconic, of course, in all of sports. Of course, they would become even more famously known as the Stankies by yours truly, several decades later. Not a big Yankees fan, but they did have their, quote, birthday on this date back in 1903. And speaking of birthdays, born on this date in 1936 in Buckland, Kansas, Coach Eddie Sutton became one of the winningest coaches in college basketball history. He led programs at Creighton, Arkansas, Kentucky, and Oklahoma State, finishing his career with more than 800 victories and becoming the first coach to take 4 different schools, that is, rather, to the NCAA tournament. He was later inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, of course, Coach Sutton did pass away on May the 23rd, 2020. He was 84 years old, but today is his birthday. Born on this date in 1956, there in Portland, Oregon, Dale Murphy became one of the biggest stars of the 1980s, of course, while playing for the Atlanta Braves. He won back-to-back MVP awards in the National League in 1982 and 83. He was a 7-time All-Star and remains one of baseball's most respected players for both his power at the plate and his character off the field. And it is a crying shame and is an injustice that Murph is still not in the Baseball Hall of Fame. But happy birthday to Dale Murphy today. He turns 70 today. And finally, born on this date in 1962 in Los Angeles, California. Folks of my generation will remember this guy, Darryl Strawberry, who turned 64 today. He emerged back in the 80s as one of baseball's most feared power hitters. Strawberry started with the New York Mets, helping them win the 1986 World Series, and later added 3 more championships with the New York Yankees during their late 1990s dynasty. Of course, Strawberry is a cautionary tale of, especially in his early days. He admittedly got involved in drug abuse and things of that nature. Fortunately, he did turn his life around, and he is now a Christian minister. But Darryl Strawberry was born on March the 12th of 1962. And again, he is 64 years old today. Happy birthday, Darryl. And then finally on today, a death to mention. On this date in March 12th, 1987, legendary football coach Woody Hayes passed away at the age of 74 due to a heart attack. Coach Hayes built the powerhouse program, of course, at Ohio State, winning 5 national championships and 13 Big Ten titles, while becoming one of the most influential and, of course, intense college football coaches in history. We all remember the footage, or maybe some of you may have seen, where he actually, of course, got involved with a player and tackled and punched a player on the other team as he was returning, I believe, a kickoff. And anyway, his legacy remains deeply, deeply woven into the tradition of Ohio State Buckeye football. But Coach Woody Hayes passed away on this date back in 1987. Final word of the day comes from Romans 12:10. Love one another deeply as brothers and sisters. Take the lead in honoring one another. One of the strongest ways we can show our faith is by how we treat people. Choose today to lead with love and honor the people around you. Well, for Matt, I'm David, and thanks for listening out there in East Texas and beyond. We'll be back tomorrow for a Fast Break Friday from the Press Box on the Right Team podcast. Be sure to support us by subscribing and liking us wherever you download your favorite podcasts, and also on our video channel on YouTube. That helps us more than you know, and we appreciate it. Everyone have a great Thursday, and as always, keep writing your story.
The college you choose plays a defining role in what you believe, how you think, and who you become. With over 45 undergraduate programs and 14 graduate programs, East Texas Baptist University offers a transformational, Christ-centered educational experience that challenges students in mind, body, and spirit. 99% of students attending ETBU receive some form of financial aid, making opportunity accessible and affordable at ETBU. Join the Tiger family. It's not too late. Apply today at etbu.edu/apply.
This episode of the Right Team podcast is also brought to you by Styles Electric. For over 25 years, Styles Electric has been providing reliable, professional electrical installation and repair service all throughout East Texas and beyond. We specialize in industrial and commercial projects of all sizes. We are proud to be a part of our communities and schools here in East Texas. Contact us today at 903-236-2536. That's Styles Electric, reliable, professional, and experienced. Did you know that someone somewhere is talking about you? Yes, your school district, your business, your church, your nonprofit group is always the subject of a conversation somewhere. Maybe it's Facebook gossip, maybe it's talk around the water cooler, maybe it's written in a newspaper or a blog somewhere. At Right Team Services, we work with you to manage that conversation more effectively, to give all of your stakeholders an opportunity to hear your message. We help you create a culture of transparency in your organization that makes your customers and stakeholders feel comfortable as part of the story, and as a result, will help your business or school district become a more effective, trusted member of your community. Contact me today at rightteamservices@gmail.com to learn more about how Right Team can help you tell your story.